The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaraya Productions. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Tokutalk.
Our topic for today:
leads in Toku. What makes them good? What makes them bad? What do we want to see in the future? And the thing that inspired me to want to have this discussion amongst the three of us, and you all as well, is our last rumor cast. Because needless to say, three of us were not happy with...
It left a lot to be desired.
With what Kirame read, at least for us. But I noticed in the comments, some people, they didn't mind. They didn't mind what Kirame read had to offer so far, just from what we've seen in the trailer. And that got me thinking, what is it about a Toku lead, not necessarily a Red Ranger, but what is it about a lead that really makes them good? And so I want to pose that question to you all. What is it for you that really makes them good?
Somebody who is a leader.
Well, let's try to give an example of, just as a leader. I can tell by me taking a pic of your screen that you're going to pick Captain Marvelous at some point.
No, I have what I have in front of me is a list of all the Super Sentai series that have ever been produced. And one of the things that we brought up last time, and I know you really hate this, Marcus, is Loud Reds. And I'm looking
at a video about that.
I'm looking back at the last 10 years, there aren't that many.
I think that a lot of my issue, especially because around the time that video came out, what was the Sentai that was on? Ninja.
Yeah, Ninja when we released that Ranto cast.
But you look back at the past 10 years, you got like Ninja, I would definitely say had one, Q Ranger, Kyoryuger, and that's about it.
And even Q Ranger, he took a bucket of Ritalin after like the first 10 episodes.
It's weird seeing him in like actual interviews, and his actor is nothing like him.
Which is good.
Where were you? I know, being an actor, you have to take you on a certain persona when you end up doing it.
I think the issue is that it's not about the quantity of them, it's about the quality. It's just that every single time we get one, it's just so grating on the mind.
It's grating, and the show is never good. Like, the quality of the show never seems to be enough to either make you forget about it or bolster that character in any way.
Because the problem is that 9 times out of 10, the plot of the show revolves around the Red, which is another issue that we have. It's not just about the fact that they are loud, it's just about the fact that they are the focus, which is like, while, King and Kyoryuger wasn't exactly the loudest of Reds, he was the focus of everything and anything that had to do with the plot of that show, which means that the rest of the team doesn't get a chance to develop as characters.
So you mentioned, sorry to cut you off, but you mentioned being a good leader. And I think for Sentai, that's definitely true. You need somebody who is charismatic. You need somebody who the audience likes watching. And you need someone who we feel can, if this team were real, we feel that this person commands them. This is somebody who they would follow into battle.
One person who always end up coming to mind when, those qualities end up coming up? Akashi from Bokenger.
Okay.
That dude was a leader of that team. It's like, he was the one that was pretty much right under Voice until it turned to be a little girl later, but what have you. But it was just like, all right, I believe everything that he does for the betterment of his team. He wants things to be good for them.
You can also, there is an argument to be said, and do not yell at me and bite my head off again like you did in the Toku tier, for the Red and Ryu Soldier. Yes, there is no plot. Yes, they don't do anything, but in terms of...
I was confused about what you meant. I was like, what?
Yes, there is no plot. Yes, they don't do anything, but in terms of being a leader, he's not great, but he's not terrible
No,
either.
he's not. I never said he was...
No, but I'm arguing is that he's a decent leader. He is getting, Black to come out of his shell. He has brought this team of 3 different tribes together to this plotless mess.
We wouldn't have... I wouldn't say that team has an actual leader, weirdly enough.
No, but they all just kind of seemed... I'm giving him the charismatic points. They all kind of seem to circle around him as the person who brought them together. But you are right. They are the most unified Sentai I think we've had in a couple of years in terms of there is no one leader. There really is no leader, and they do seem to work well together and get along. But again, no plot. Okay. So they're getting along to fight the forces of nothing. Mm-hmm. But
insert existential dread here.
So in terms of Sentai, I definitely think being a good leader, like you said, is most important. Not so much when it comes to Kamen Rider.
No, because it's not a team aspect.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Not as much.
There is still a team element at play in Kamen Rider because you have a supporting cast that is always surrounding our lead, but it's just they're just not fighting alongside him always.
Yeah, but
I feel like this is something that really only applies to Sentai though, solely because of the fact that it is so much more team focused. I mean, it's in the name, but it's a team. Your leader, or sometimes lack thereof, should end up being enough to really drive the point forward.
Okay, I think a better word would be ensemble then.
Yeah. There
we go.
But because we have because Sentai has that team aspect, which means there has to be a role in that team. You have to serve a purpose to make the team better.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always have to be the red. Take Kamen Rider, for example. The team leader is Tsuruhime, or
Kira Major Pink. Yeah, and Kira Major, I think Yellow. You said
Yellow's the lead in that one. Black is the lead in Mega Ranger. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of we'll say team captains here, more or less, instead of leader. But it's like a lot of them, he's the one who he or she is the one who sets out the plans. Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to stop this guy? Or, some prevalent plot point ends up focusing around them. Not so much a Mega Ranger, but at least in Kamen Ranger, you had Tsuruhime's dad, a.k.a. Vol-Eagle, too, as like a main plot point in the latter half of the show.
But then, like with team captains, you pick your team, and like I said before, you have a role that makes the team better. And honestly, I don't want to use the word stereotype of that is Gokaiger. Every single member of that team has a role and a purpose. Marvelous is the captain. He is the pirate of the captain of the ship.
It's his name.
It is his name. You've got Doc, who is the Doc, and the chef. You've got Joe, who is the swordsman. You've got Yuka, who's kind of the thief and the treasure expert.
You said Yuka.
What did I say? Oh.
We know what you meant.
Yeah, Yellow, who's and you have essentially Pink, who is kind of the den mother, to make sure that they don't go too piratey, I guess. But everybody has it, and Guy is the guy. He's the brains, honestly, of Sentai. He's the Sentai brains, so that they know exactly what they're doing with those powers. So everybody has a role to fill, and they do it. But the problem with Gokaiger is that role kind of turned into their character, and it shouldn't. Your role should be just something you do, not something that you are.
True, but in Gokaiger, I think it works because the show is executed so well.
It is.
It's well written, and it's so much fun to watch that you really it just doesn't bother me that much.
But I'm just looking at it on paper perspective. There's really nothing we really know about Joe as a person other than the fact of he's really, really good with swords.
Okay.
And Sid.
Which was his
story.
I mean, no, it was his story, but it revolved around being a swordsman.
Yeah.
That's when, Ahim was a princess. And
what are some bad examples of bad leads?
Of a bad lead?
Ninja?
I was going to say Kyoryuger.
Let's go off of that one. I want to hear this.
Like I would recommend going back and checking out the Kyoryuger review for getting more of my thoughts because I can't quite come up with them off the top of my head at the moment.
And we had a very good discussion.
But the way the plot entirely revolves around him and he's just not that interesting of a character. He's the leader of the team because the writers said so. These people are following him into battle because the writers say so. That's how I feel.
I think we had this debate in the review, is that he is the leader of the team and they follow him because he's the strongest. But you're right, he is the strongest because the writer says so. But I guess it's kind of just comparing. I guess it's two sides of the same coin.
And thinking, because
everything is because the writer says so.
True. Well, you could say that about everything, yeah. But thinking ahead to Kira Major, and this is all just speculation, but you said, because I didn't know this at first, Yellow is going to be the team leader. Mm-hmm. So Red is most likely going to be our outside perspective looking in.
Being introduced
to this new world.
Because he's the last one to get the powers.
Right.
Very much like Gao Ranger.
Very much like, well, yeah, but also like Toku.
Which I think that's a good way to write a lead character. There is no specific good and bad way to do it anyway. It could be good or bad. But with this in particular, when you're dealing with any kind of fantasy setting, when you have an outsider character, that's a great way to introduce us to this fantastical world. You look at Harry Potter and how the way he is introduced to magic in the wizarding world is the same way that we, the audience, are introduced to it. And I think that's and hopefully that's something they can capitalize on for Kira Major.
Hopefully. The issue we're having with Kira Major is his attitude towards it.
Harry soured us.
How Harry Potter, when he's introduced to this world, he's in awe. He's in silent contemplation because his entire world has changed.
That's just more of a character.
But that's my point. I'm talking about the character itself. When he's introduced to this world, he is in awe. He is processing it. Then we get to Kira Major, and he just screams his bloody head off.
Well, let me ask you this: is that more of a personal preference for you? Because I'm pretty sure that
first of all, I thought this was already known.
I know.
This is personal preference for us.
I understand that. I'm just trying to clear it up because that's how this character, from what we've seen in the trailer, we haven't seen the show yet. This is just speculation. From what we've seen in the trailer, that's how this character is reacting, and people are going to react differently to different situations.
I'll say this.
Yes, Marcus.
And this is such a personal thing for me. Takahara really did ruin a lot of this character trope for at least me in particular. I do not like a lot of the more shonen modern Reds. And this is the same for me for a lot of shonen modern like manga and anime. Let's say, go back 10, 15, 20 years. Who was like besides Dragon Ball Z, of course, who was like the big one that was the big shonen one that was out around there?
Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach.
We're going to see 20 years ago. Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, and DBZ sort of made up the other one. But those two shows, it was so different. Seeing comparing those to something like Black Clover.
Oh, absolutely.
Or Fire Force. Or something like that, where the main is loud.
He's not Fire Force. He's not that loud. He's very stubborn. I'll give him that.
I will say it's sort of coming around in a cycle because we do have Demon Slayer now, and he's definitely not like that.
Oh God, no.
But it's like with a lot of the more shonen Reds, strictly as Super Sentai.
And then you have the biggest shonen one right now, My Hero Academia. He's not loud either.
Yeah.
So,
but it's like when Takahara came on, it's just like this is the opposite of everything I've ever wanted in a character.
It was watching the first part of Naruto where he's just screaming.
Believe it.
Yeah, he was just screaming, "Believe it! And I'm gonna be the best." And I get where you're coming from. And to my point earlier, like when you're introduced to this world, I think it's better to have the main character kind of silently contemplate what they're processing because it allows us to also process.
Okay.
So because you brought up Black Clover, we're given this world where everybody can do magic. Magic is the norm. There's a giant fucking three-eyed skull in the middle of nowhere with a statue on it. No one bats an eye. And we're just like, wow. Don't even get me started. And it's just like, wow, this is a really fantastical world. Let me just kind of appreciate it. And all you hear is, because that's what Asta sounds like in the sub.
Pure Nikki.
Because that's what he sounds like in the sub. He's just high-pitched screaming, and it's so graining on the ears, you can't think of, this is a beautiful world I'm looking at. No, I'm just thinking, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Which is the problem we had with Takaharu and the Ninja, which is the problem we're going to fucking have with Kira Major, is what we've been doing.
Which is his name. Jewel. Like the singer.
Let's shift gears a little and go to...
I apologize to anybody who was listening to this with headphones, by the way.
I apologize to myself.
You have to edit this?
Yes.
I will never apologize. Shift gears over to Kamen Rider.
Okay.
Where we have much more of a... it isn't, like I said, it is an ensemble because we do have supporting characters that do surround him, but we have our lead character in this. Specifically, he is our main writer.
Because...
What do you think makes them good or bad? Is it more of the same thing, or...
Well, we really don't have the problem of over-the-top loud reds, like that kind of the character, as we do in Kamen Rider.
I'm just
trying
to...
No, I understand what you're saying. Because our problem with those characters is they're not taking the severity of their situation seriously. Like, look at Lucky. He's helping rid the world of a... He's the leader of a resistance. Trying to free the world of a galactic empire. And he's too busy bitching. He's too busy screaming about how lucky he is.
But
he did, again, he calmed the fuck down and he got much better.
And he gave purpose as to why he kept saying that. It wasn't just his name. It was more of a battle cry so people would actually have hope again, thinking that they would end up being lucky once again by getting rid of these things. So that's why.
Then we'll go back to Takaharu. He's not focusing about beating the villain and saving the world. He's about being better, being the one ninja, being Hokage. Bullshit.
You know,
a lot of
weirdly enough,
comparisons to Naruto.
I think that still one of my. We're just going to stick with the Kamen Rider reference that you were bringing up. One of my favorite, I'll say two, is of course Joe from Kuga, who's like perfect as a main. He's optimistic.
He's optimistic, but he knows the severity of a situation and takes it seriously.
Seriously set in reality.
And the moment he gets that rider kick that destroys 3 city blocks, he starts contemplating, should I still be doing this? Am I just as bad as the monsters I'm fighting?
And I think, really enough, another good one is V3.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
His whole thing, he started off very revenge heavy. That was like his whole thing. Fuck these guys. I'm killing all y'alls. These people turned me into a cyborg because it's your fault. This is the only way that they thought that they could save me. So I'm just coming in and destroy you and everything you ever liked. And he sort of calmed down for a little bit, you know, especially working with the guy whose name, Tachibana.
Yeah.
Who ended up being like sort of his mentor and really helped rein in a lot of his anger as the show went along. And it's weird to get that from a lot of the older shows because a lot of them really did focus on the monster of the week. You can even say for something like Change Man, which we love, but we see where a lot of the main rangers weren't that great until later on. Even though Change Man did it first.
Some main characters like Gaim, and I'm going to say something negative about Gaim, where he's very shonen main character kind of person, where he just wants to protect everybody. And he wants to get stronger for the sole purpose of protecting. He's Ichigo. And there's a reason Bleach got canceled.
I think it also comes down to a difference in franchise.
That too.
From what we've been talking about...
That is also true.
I think that Super Sentai, when it comes to leads in Sentai, it's much more character-focused and less story-focused. Because Sentai tends to have much simpler plots.
Yeah.
The more modern ones, yeah.
The more modern ones, especially. What we're used to be seeing, what our viewers have probably most likely watched more than the older Showa stuff.
But I ain't even talking about the older shows. I'm talking about stuff like Jetman, Night Ranger, Live Man,
even that too. But all the
Live
same,
Man was Showa though.
At the end,
all the same. I think that Kamen Rider. I think when it comes to Kamen Rider especially, you need to give your lead a reason for us to care about them. You need to give them a story. Give it like Joe, mastering 1,000 talents, bringing smiles to everybody. Give us a trait or something that we can latch onto. Kamen Rider Forze, I want to befriend everyone in the school.
Kamen Rider O's. He was extremely charismatic.
He was charismatic, he was carefree, and he was another one who was introduced to this fantastical world of the Greeds and this ancient medieval civilization.
And he didn't scream his fucking head off.
No, he didn't. Because we had Ankh. We had that. He was the.
He had that roadblock of whap. Shut up.
Well, I was gonna say he had Ankh as his gateway.
Yeah.
His foil and his gateway into this world, and he was the one who was educating him, just as he was educating the audience.
Again, I don't.
And I'm going to bring it up again, but this brings us to Wizard. This brings us to Wizard, where...
Why would you do this?
Because I feel like it's a relevant thing to what we're talking about.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but why would you torture me?
You have a point, and that's what I want to.
A lot of our fans like Wizard. They really like Haruto as a character, and that's totally fine. That's great that they do.
What character?
Post-show.
Fair enough.
Here's the thing. For me, and for these two as well, they made the show so much about these victims of the week, about these other characters who never paid off in any way. And it's great that Haruto is willing to help these people. That's an inherently good quality to possess for a hero.
Why does he want to help them?
Because he's a Kamen Rider and that's what he does. He's a selfless person and he wants to help.
I think the biggest problem that we ended up getting from Haruto, especially towards the end of the show, is the fact that the one focus episode we got on him felt inconsequential.
It feels inconsequential.
And it was still about somebody else that just happened to be tied to him.
Right. I said this in the review, he is relegated to being a side character in his own show. And this is not a fault of... I don't think this is a fault of the character specifically. It's a fault of the writers.
No. But I feel like that could work if it's done properly. Mm-hmm. And I've brought this point up, I think, in multiple videos before. It was a video analysis, and I hate to bring back shonen anime, but you unleashed the floodgates for me.
Say what you gotta.
The three kings of shonen 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Naruto, One Piece, Bleach. Mm. Look at these characters. What does Naruto want?
To be the Hokage.
What does Luffy want?
To be king of the pirates.
What does Ichigo want?
I wish I knew.
He wants to protect his friends.
Okay.
His driving force is reactive, not proactive. Whereas the other two have a goal that they are proactively searching for. Mm-hmm. And that is much more interesting to watch. And that is the issue with Haruto. He is an extremely reactive character.
I would say Oz is kind of the same way.
But his character made up for the fact. That's why I'm saying it can work. Because we've seen it work in O's.
Of course.
You know who's... And both of you will probably hate me for bringing him up.
No, it's fine.
Kabuto.
Okay.
Because he's not the main character.
No, he's not. He's not the
titular character.
But he's not the main protagonist of the show. Kagami, the show revolves around Kagami, and that I think is what helps Kabuto not be so terrible to me, because I don't see Kabuto as the main character. I see him as the Deus Ex Machina personified to help Kagami get out of the jams. At
least for I don't like Kabuto, but that's a show that I can really understand the appeal. I understand the appeal of having a character so powerful.
Oh yeah, it's so fun to watch.
Yes, exactly. For some people it is. Just this particular show, it didn't work for me. But
you could also have a split lead, like we talked about several times in Ryuki.
Yes.
Ryuki is perfect for example. That.
It might not have been executed the best, but Ultraman Rube did this. It's still an example.
Sure, the show might be named Hibiki, but his story is not the one we follow.
No.
It's just like when you end up having a lead, you have to have something compelling for them to actually strive
and that's why O's worked, because Edgy was a more compelling character that we sympathized with, kind of identified with, and just enjoyed watching because of the back and forth he had with Ankh, because that was really a dual protagonist show. It was Edgy and Ankh. It was a dual protagonist. But then you have Haruto, who essentially they're telling us every goddamn episode he is just a plain sugar donut. That's it. No matter how much we ask him to be something else, like, look at this new creation that we have, plain sugar. Because that's all I'm going to be.
And the weird thing is, it really doesn't...
Ichigo's a better character. That's the sad part.
It does end up coming down to execution. It will always come down to execution.
Always.
You can have somebody who has a clear set goal, but it keeps getting reset. A la Ghost. Every single time he wanted to wish himself back, it kept being somebody else had to be wished back first. And he decided to be selfless and sacrifice that wish up for the self and have to do the whole thing over.
What's the nostalgia critic when he's comparing the two Willy Wonkas? One kid is an actual kid, the other kid is Jesus.
But it's just like watching Ghost go through and do all these things. His character cannot and did not move the show forward. And it was a trial and a tribulation to watch. Weirdly enough, on the Sentai side, we do end up having several cases of this as well, and it does happen a lot more in the Showa category, where it's just Masked Man.
But I feel
Masked Man is a great tube-like example.
I think the difference though is the time period those shows are airing. Sentai did not need to be compelling. It did not need to be complicated because I feel like
no, but the thing is, it started that. Diamond started that. That was before Masked Man. It's like we have to have a continuous story. It doesn't always end up having to focus on the people. That's how we got Change Man.
No, I'm saying compelling. I'm saying we're trying not to. It was a Saturday morning cartoon show essentially.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm not saying there is, but when you're writing one of those versus when you're writing a compelling narrative, you go about two different ways. What will entertain a child more, and what will entertain the parents who have to watch this with the child? That is the perspective of the writing room.
¿Por qué no los dos?
That's the thing. That's the golden month. That is the golden balance. That is the golden balance. With something for both the kids and the parents who are watching with their kids. But if they make it more fun to the kids are going to want the toys, and that means they're going to make money. It's all about perspective.
I don't think any story needs to be anything aside from good.
Yeah.
I don't think
the problem is good is subjective.
It is just like all art, but when you like being compelling versus there's like simple can be compelling. Simple can be extremely compelling. You look at the Mario games. You jump on things and you rescue a princess. It's about as simple as it gets.
Until she turns out to be in another castle.
Yeah. Don't you hate it when that happens?
I think
like 3 times.
I think the problem with that is those are two different mediums.
I know they're two different mediums. I'm just saying it's still simple.
I think when it ends up coming to
simple can still be compelling as long as the meat surrounding it.
Playing Mario and watching somebody play Mario are two different things.
I think when it ends up coming to a lead.
Okay, well, a better example might be. I'll say Gokaiger then. Gokaiger is extremely simple.
It had the benefit of nostalgia and fan service.
It didn't for me. I didn't grow up with any of those shows.
You didn't? I didn't either when it's on. I watched it. All I have is Night Ranger on my belt.
Or even something like Deca Ranger.
Ranger? Yeah.
That's why I said nostalgia and fan service. Nostalgia for the people who grew up watching it. Fan service for the people who know either for us, because we knew it was nostalgic for us in one way because we're seeing suits from our childhood still, because Power Rangers was still a thing. I didn't care if I didn't know the Sentai. I saw the goddamn Turbo suits and the Zeo suits fighting together, and that blew my mind. It's all a matter, again, it's a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of the goal you're trying to make.
Back to the point of this.
Right.
I think you'll both agree with me, because I bring these shows up a lot, Maria. But I talk about these shows a lot for a reason. Their leads are compelling to watch. You talked about how they have, they don't necessarily have to have an overarching story. So you end up having something like Deca Ranger, where the characters are constantly growing. You can see and grow with them, even up to now, because they're coming back every 5 minutes. But then
you have something like Jetman, and he does have an overarching story.
Yeah, that story is there from beginning to end. You have Live Man, where it starts out dire as hell. And these leads have to come in and try to reconcile the fact that they're fighting their friends and trying to stop their friends. And
who killed off all the token minorities.
Maybe possibly even kill their friends to stop them from doing some extremely evil and terrible things. A lead has to have a point.
That they do.
That's my main thing. You have, that's the problem I'm sort of having. Well, that's just straight the problem.
You have to have okay. The problem with that is, and I agree with you, a point helps, but the Ninja had a point. He had a goal. It's about the execution of said point.
I think it's just the fact that you have to have some level of everything.
Yeah.
To actually get to a good point. Ryu Soldier does not have this.
No.
The Ninja did not have this.
Ryu Soldier is missing a plot.
Which is, it's just like, you had to have
a goal.
The thing that makes a lead good to me is just the fact that you had to have the charisma, the uniqueness, the nerve, and the talent. For those of you who watch RuPaul's Drag Race, Thank you. But those qualities do have to end up.
All 3 of our fans that watch RuPaul's Drag Race.
But those qualities still have to be there.
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing.
It's just like, for all of that, you have to have something that compels me as a person.
And you have to have those in some capacity. That capacity may not always be the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can have certain different levels of it. But at the same time, it's like, bro, if you're not doing anything, if you're not capturing me as a viewer, I don't want to watch this.
That is a great way to look at it. Because that's how I feel about a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's my attitude towards pretty much all of film and television as a whole. If I'm not being captivated in some way, then why am I here?
Like, I stick with Ryu Soldier because I want to see the end. I stuck with Ninja because I want to see the end. I stuck with Ghost because I want to see the end.
How'd those turn out for you?
I'm still dying on the inside.
That's what I thought.
But I stuck
with
them.
It's like a candle that just won't burn out.
It's like I'm the opposite of Zero Ranger's ending for the Green Ranger. The opposite of Dragon Ranger's ending. But I'm still going to watch it because I want to see where this goes. Maybe it'll redeem itself. Like Blade did at the end of the show. Where it's just like, all right, take it to 12. And leave it there. All right, Barbara.
And, I mean, 01's doing a fantastic job.
Yes. Somebody tried to argue the other day that what was the point of the first arc when Guy is the cause of it? I'm sitting here like, Guy is there. He's that human person who doesn't realize he's making mistakes. Or rather, he does, but he still thinks he's doing it for the right reason.
Every villain's the hero of his
I'm
own
still terrible with
story.
names. Which character?
Thouser. You haven't caught up, have you?
No, I'm very behind.
Thouser.
Is this the guy who's
Enterprises?
The guy who's like always like 1,000%. Okay, that's all you had to say. Yeah, he's
like,
kind of an idiot.
But he thinks he's doing the right thing, trying to prove that the human gears are not needed, and we can do it with his new technology to boost humanity up above everything else, above the human gear menace that he sees as being a thing.
Everyone's the hero of their own story.
And I love the fact that
you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I love the fact that we have this moral quandary happening with Aruto.
That's why I love 01 so much. It's less about the story of Guy fights monsters. It's about the conflicting ideologies of these factions.
And it makes it just for such an interesting watch.
Yep.
Somebody said that it's bad writing. I'm sitting here like, how? There's a quandary being set up. There are questions being unanswered that we haven't gotten the answer to yet, rather, I should say. And it's so compelling to watch. That's not bad writing. That is good tension building.
Not every question has to be answered at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
But yeah.
That went on a lot longer than I expected.
I think that about sums it up.
Jesus.
We've been going for what?
So let us know what you think in the comments below.
Follow us on all the things. And as always, we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.